have some people on the call here today who have never heard of me. Rich said that he sent out a blast to his list as well. So there might be some people on here who don't know me. My name is Jennifer. Rich Gossenbeek is here with me in the studio. He is the VP of Sales and Marketing at Exact Contact, which is the platform that we're going to use today to talk about today's subject. All right. This show today is the first in a series of shows that we tend to run. We try to do them twice a year. So if you've attended one of these before, then a lot of what we talk about will sound familiar, but I'm sure you'll still get your money's worth out of it. But we usually do 3 shows in a series. The first session usually is about using your contact management system to nurture your sphere of influence. The second session is typically about using your contact management system to run your business, and by that I mean your transactions. And then the third session is about all the bells and whistles that my favorite contact management system, which is Exact Contact, offers. Well, for some reason, and I have no real explanation why, we switched the first 2 today. So our first session is going to be on running your business as opposed to nurturing your sphere of influence. But never fear, we will have the sphere of influence session next month. I'm not sure of the date. I think it's in mid-February sometime. So, Rich, if anybody has any questions or comments, we welcome them, and we do need you guys to get the ball rolling there. So somewhere on your screen there should be a place to enter a question, and Rich will be behind the scenes monitoring those, and he can interrupt me if he wants, or we'll just wait from time to pause to get to your questions, or of course he will answer them if he can. All right, everything look good, Rich?
Yeah, all looks good, and I've already got people, got correspondence going, so we're all set there. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, cool. So today we're going to talk about transaction checklists and why I am so enthusiastic about such what you might think of as a mundane subject. But I am so enthusiastic about transaction checklists, almost fanatically so. I've always been a fan of checklists, even before I discovered the magic of automating them with a contact management system. And at this point, it's hard for me to imagine running a real estate business without using checklists of some sort, even if all you use are paper ones. And once you have any business going at all, any transactions going on at all, why you wouldn't want to use automated ones, I can't imagine, although I do have to confess that at the peak of my career, when I was selling 50 to 70 homes a year, I was still using paper, but by golly, I was using the heck out of those paper checklists. So when I finally learned about the magic of automating them, oh my goodness, my life changed. I'm going to get back to that here in a few minutes, but I wanted to take a moment to tell you how excited I am at the registration today. I mean, I knew we'd have good registration, but frankly, we usually get higher registration on our sphere of influence session because that tends to be what more people are interested in. And maybe we'll see, double the registration for the one next month. But we had one of our highest registrations we've ever had today. And I am so excited because for reasons I'm going to share with you here for the next few minutes, incorporating transaction checklists into your real estate practice, into your business, will change your business. It will change what you're able to do, what you want to do, what you're comfortable doing, and I'm going to explain all of that. So I'm thrilled, and thank you all for being here today. By the way, what you're looking at on your screen, I'm going to be talking for the next probably 5-10 minutes, so not a whole lot's going to go on there, but we will get to the demo here, like I said, in 5 or 10 minutes. All right. Now, a few minutes ago, I mentioned that when I was selling 50 to 70 houses a year, I was using paper checklists, okay? Did you catch that? Yes, there was a period in my career that I was selling 50 to 70 homes a year. Now, some of you may be selling way more than that, but I'm not trying to brag about selling that many houses. I'm not saying that I was the most prolific real estate agent ever out there because, I did that much business. I know that other people certainly do more than that. But I will say that while I did have some help during my peak years, it really wasn't all that much help. And frankly, I decided at the end that some of the help I had was really more trouble than it was worth. I never had a buyer agent, I never had a transaction coordinator, and I never had a team. It wasn't, Jennifer and her, 5 underlings running around doing my prospecting or my client service. So my point by saying that is that I managed to manage 50 to 70 transactions a year, and while I was at it, provide some pretty darn good customer service, if I do say so myself. Anyway, my point in telling you this is that from time to time, I will ask a group of agents, whether it's in maybe a workshop that I'm doing or just a survey that I do to my general readership, and I'll ask in various ways, what are your production goals? If you could, how many homes would you like to sell a year? How many closings would you like to attend? How many transactions? And I'm just curious, okay, what are your goals? Well, I'm always surprised at how low the goals are. Seems weird, doesn't it? I mean, you would think that they would be very high, but the goals that people report are fairly low, okay? Now, please don't take offense at that. If, as I'm talking, your personal goals fall into what I might consider low, I'm not criticizing you. I'm not at all. I mean, it's your choice. I just don't understand, I guess, why you wouldn't want to be busier than that and why you think maybe that you can't handle more business than that. Remember, we're talking about your goals, not the realities, okay? So if you're curious what I would consider to be low, I kind of hesitate to, to put a number on it because I don't really want to imply that I'm being critical, but what the heck, let me go ahead and tell you what I think. I would consider anything less than 20 transactions a year to be low. And frankly, I don't see how a full-time real estate agent can't handle 20 transactions or more, 30 or more, maybe even 40 or more. I mean, if you think about it, that's just 2 to 3 closings a month, right? Now, yeah, you'll be busy, but that's what a successful career is all about, right? Being happily busy. Now, I probably still haven't made my point, so let me go ahead and get to that, is I wonder if agents who are shooting low have maybe a conscious or subconscious concern that they can't handle a higher level of business because they're not confident they'll stay on top of the details. I don't know. I mean, maybe they feel overwhelmed when they have 1 or 2 deals going on and they don't see how they could possibly keep up with more and keep doing the other things that they need to be doing as a real estate agent and as a mom or a dad or a friend or a volunteer or whatever. Well, if you think this might maybe just possibly apply to you, the good news is that good transaction management can help a lot. Once you have your checklists in place, and here's the kicker, you have your checklists in place, it can take a lot of the strain off your mind, and it gives you the confidence that you can handle more because you don't have to remember everything. Now, sure, you still have to deal with the problems and the challenges that arise. You still have to do the job, but that's what keeps you hopping, not trying to remember to do all those things you need to do. When you get a new listing, when you get a buyer under contract, or you get one of your listings under contract. Now, of course, being able to handle more business is not the only, and it may not even be the best reason to implement good transaction management. The best reason to do it is because it makes you a far better real estate agent who provides an exceptional client experience. And as we've discussed here in the past, when you provide an exceptional client experience, that results both in more business for you in the future, as well as more closed transactions for you instead of ones that fall apart. And of course, when these things happen, you become a far more confident real estate agent, which is obviously a beautiful thing, which can result in you getting more business to manage exceptionally. Now, some of you, may be saying that you'd be happy to do 30 or more transactions a year if you could just find that many to do. And in our next webinar, we're going to talk more about that to some degree. But I really am a firm believer that a lot of agents sabotage themselves, maybe even subconsciously or unconsciously, because they're concerned that they won't be able to handle the level of business they think they want. And that does affect their ability to actually go out and get that business. And also, as I just mentioned, and I just want to drill this home, is when you have good transaction management, and you provide a killer client experience, business will come from that. I promise you, it will come from that. So, all right. Let me take a breath. Rich, everything still looking good?
All good, Jennifer.
Okay. Wow, we have I'm guessing there's some people that got kicked out of the webinar because we have a lot of people on this call. All right. So, what do I mean by transaction? I'm talking about transaction management, transaction checklist. So what do I mean by a transaction? Okay, well, I'm thinking that's obvious, but let me go ahead and clarify it, at least as far as what we're going to talk about today. When I talk about transaction management, I'm referring to a real estate agent's handling of his or her active listings, okay, the properties they have that are on the market but not yet under contract, the listings that they have that are under contract but not yet closed, and their buyers who are under contract heading toward the closing table. Now, contrary to what some real estate training seems to believe, just getting a signature or two on a document is not the end of the story. Your job is not done when you get those signatures. When you get a signed listing agreement from a homeowner, that's when the most important work begins. When your buyer contracts to purchase a home, okay, you're not done yet, okay? There's a lot more work to do. Same thing when your listing goes under contract, all right? A lot of work to do between that glorious day and that you go under contract and the closing day. So, for example, think about the things that you as a listing agent need to do or ensure get done by the end of the day your listing goes live. Okay, so just put yourself in that position. I have a new listing. It's going live today. What are all the things I need to make sure get done today? Okay, I got to make sure the lockbox is installed, that there's a key in it, that the key works. I've got to put up the for sale sign. I need to order my brochures. I need to set up the showing service if you use showing services. I got to make sure all the documents are signed and turned into the office. I need to make sure the MLS listing is accurate. I should probably send it to the seller to review it. I need to put up my directional arrows, my special feature cards if you use those. Okay, and that's just some of the things you need to do on day one. So what about when your buyer goes under contract? Okay, you've been out there with your buyer, you wrote an offer, it was accepted yesterday. Okay, what are all the things you need to do today as the buyer agent? Well, you need to make sure that all the documents and disclosures are signed, that anything that needs to go to the other side is there, that the earnest money deposit has been delivered, that the lender has a copy of the contract, that the buyer knows what they need to do next, schedule the inspection, look for home insurance. Okay. Now, what about when your listing goes under contract? Okay, what do you need to do that first day? Well, you need to make sure that the earnest money deposit is received, that the status in the MLS has changed, that the status of the showing service has changed. You need to order the title work if that's something you do in your market. If there are other agents with showing scheduled and you've just gone under contract, you need to let them know about the status change. These are all on the first day. Okay, so then in that first week that your listing goes live or goes under contract or your buyer goes under contract, and then the second week and the third week and then the week of closing and the day of closing, there's so much to do. A lot of them are little things, but there are so many little things, all right? So this seems like a good time to just shoot out a few definitions, and we'll head to the screen here in a few minutes. Okay, first, checklist. What's a checklist? A checklist is simply a list of things you need to do in the order in which you need to do them. Okay, typically a checklist is on paper. Okay, what's an activity plan or an action plan or a transaction, well, an activity plan or an action plan? That is a pre-created template checklist that you apply to your transactions at the time you open the transaction. Okay, so what's the difference between a checklist and activity plan? Well, for our purposes here, an activity plan is a checklist that's been automated. Simple as that. Checklist equals paper, activity plan equals on digital, I guess would be the word. Okay, let's go over to the Sell with Soul VIP Lounge. All right, I forgot to send Rich this link, but it's easy enough to find. If you go to sellwithsoul.com, to sellwithsoul.com, and then go to Inside SWS, you can come down here to the VIP Lounge. All right, that's how I got here. Okay. Let's look at my new listing checklist. These are in here for free. You're welcome to go there yourself. Okay, so this is a very simple checklist that I created for listing agents. So when you get a new listing, these are the things I found in my Denver market when I was a practicing real estate agent that needed to be done when I got a new listing. I counted them up, and I believe there were 36 items on here. Okay, 36 to-dos. The listing under contract checklist, I think there are 33 is what I counted. Watch this load. Okay. And then if we went to the buyer under contract checklist, I think there are 26 to-dos that need to happen every time one of my buyers goes under contract. Now keep in mind when you're looking at these to-dos here that all of these are generic to-dos. What I mean by that is that they're not date specific for each contract. So keep in mind that assuming that your contract has dates and deadlines in there specific to the contract, obviously you'll need to be following up on those as well. So that adds even more to-dos. Okay? So anyway, if you add up the to-dos on just these three checklists, you'll be right under 100 to-dos if you have one new listing, one listing under contract, and one buyer under contract. Okay? Hold that thought. Now, if you only have one transaction going on at a time, you have one buyer under contract and that's all you're doing, okay? Or you have one active listing, you don't have anything under contract. You might think that, well, do I really need transaction management? I mean, how hard is it to, to remember all this stuff if I just have one deal going on? Well, frankly, I know for me, I tend to get kind of careless and forgetful when I'm not crazy busy, so there's that. But also, surely, isn't it your goal to have more than one transaction going on at once? What if you had 5 active listings, 3 buyers under contract, and 4 listings under contract? Can you see how even the very simple things would almost certainly fall through the cracks? And you know what happens when things fall through the cracks? Well, 3 not so wonderful things happen. First, your client's probably going to notice that you're not on top of things, and they probably won't be singing your praises. Second, even if your client doesn't notice, they probably will, but even if they don't notice that you're not really on top of things, something that does slip through the cracks might end up killing the deal or costing your client or you time or money. And then third, as you're going through your career, as these kind of oopsies start adding up, it's going to affect your confidence and your peace of mind. And it'll be sort of a vicious circle that you're going to have serious doubts that you are a great real estate agent, and perhaps with good reason. Alrighty? So I'm going to go over to Exact now. Rich, any questions or things we need to talk about before we hit the show and tell?
No, I think we're good, Jennifer. I would keep going. Okay.
All right. Now, this screen you've been looking at for the last, I guess, 15 minutes or so is the home page of Exact Contact. This is not a demo of Exact Contact today, so I'm not going to go through it all. I'm just going to touch on the screens that are relevant to us today. But it's it's very simple. It's very intuitive. I love Exact Contact. Okay. Now, remember a few minutes ago then, I gave you the example of having one active listing, one listing under contract, and one buyer under contract, which would result in nearly 100 tasks for you to do, 100 to-dos. Remember that? All right, let's see what that looks like. Okay, this is my Exact Contact task list. And what I have on here, I should have shown you my active business. Let me show you that real quick. Here's my active business, okay? I have my sister, Julie. She is an active listing, okay? My friend Bob is a listing that is under contract, and Eric is a listing that is a buyer. Eric is a buyer under contract. So I have 3 transactions here. See that? That's it. That's all I have are those 3. Back to my to-do list. These are all the things that need to be done. If they're in red, it means that I haven't done them yet, and all of these I just did this week. Okay, I mean, these were all dates of this week. So 91 items on 5 pages of things that I need to do. All right, now what if you had 2 active listings, 2 buyers under contract and 2 listings under contract? Can you imagine what this would look like? Okay, so let's say that you woke up this morning like I did. You came in and looked at your exact contact, and this is what you saw on your to-do list. All right, what would you do? Well, here's the cool thing. You're going to look at your to-dos and say, well, have I done that? Have I done that? Have I done that? Have I done that? Okay, so let's just say you're looking at this and you're going, do I have all seller signatures? Yeah, I got that done. Cool. Taking pictures, I'm going to do that today, so we'll leave that there. Yes, I did get the virtual tour done. HOA, this one doesn't have an HOA, so that doesn't matter. Doesn't have an HOA, so I'll do that. I've got the key in the lockbox installed. So you go through here, you figure out what you've done, what you've not done. Like, oh shoot, God, I totally forgot to do that. You check the ones that you've done, mass complete them, and it'll take them off your to-do list. Now, if you want to see what you've done, there is another list that will show you all of your completed tasks. But this is, I mean, easy enough. And if you're a checklist lover, like you like to make lists and mark them off, you will love this. It's awesome. Okay, so looking at this to-do list, these first, I just marked off some of them, but all of these are for the home on Nebraska, which is my active listing. Then we move down to the other one, which is my listing under contract, and it'll tell me all the things I need to do there, okay? And then again, I've got 5 pages of these. Now, if we go to page 2, there. Okay, once we get to the blue, whew, okay, these are things that aren't due yet, all right. But we had a page and a half of reds that I needed to get onto. So one of the things I like to, you know, a little rant, I guess, I like to do here in the middle of these transaction management shows is, you know, sometimes we get kind of the feedback that, oh my gosh, I don't want a transaction manager. I don't want a contact management system if it's going to give me all these to-dos. I don't want, this is overwhelming. I don't want to do that. Well, here's the thing, is that these to-dos on here need to get done whether or not they're in a transaction management system, a contact management system, whether or not they're on a paper checklist. These are all things that need to get done. Okay, so the fact that it's overwhelming, yes, it is overwhelming, but wouldn't you rather be overwhelmed and have your list in front of you as opposed to overwhelmed and not have your list in front of you? I don't know if that makes any sense. So, okay, so that's your task list. Okay, now also keep in mind that you'll be using this task list for your sphere of influence activities too, which we'll talk about next month. So instead of 91 items on here, I can pretty much guarantee you if you're doing any business at all and you're relying on your contact management system, which I would encourage you to do, you'll come up here and you'll have 500 items on this task list. Now, not all of them are due today, so don't worry about that. But you know, you'll have 500, 600 things on here. All of these are things that if you do them will make you a more successful real estate agent. So don't be, you know, don't feel like that's a bad thing. It's a good thing. All right. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago that there were no dates, and that these checklists, these generic templated checklists, didn't have dates and deadlines in them. What we want to do, of course, is we want to make sure that we do track dates and deadlines. So here's how easy that is. We go into the active business. So this is my listing that is under contract. Okay, you can fill in all of this information. I'm not going to do it right now. I'll show it to you a little bit later. But down here in the middle of the page, it has you can enter the date-specific dates. I'm sorry, the transaction-specific dates. So whatever those are in your market. Okay, so you know, if the inspection date, let's say we went under contract yesterday, so the inspection deadline is, let's say, the 3rd, so we'll enter that. If you want to include this in your calendar and have it send you an email reminder ahead of time, you can do that. Just check those there. And then if your contract, like the Colorado contract, of course, has lots of other dates and deadlines that you need to add. All you have to do is add those here. So let's say the home insurance contingency. Okay, and then I'll just add the date for that. Just make one up. Is that okay? Here's another one. Okay, we'll add the survey deadline. Okay, if you need to add more dates, you can add as many dates as you want. Remember, these are transaction-specific dates, not dates that apply to every transaction. Okay, those go in your activity plan, which I'll show you how to create here in a second. So, but this is where, on the actual what they call active business, this is where you're going to enter the transaction-specific dates and deadlines. Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to cancel that. Okay, I already did that. I did that. And then if we returned, that's fine. And then if we return to our task list, then the dates and deadlines that I just entered here would show up on my to-do list. Leave. There we go. Okay, so how do you make all of this wonderfulness happen? Well, the first thing you need to do is to create your checklist. You can do that from scratch if you want, which is actually kind of fun, or you can use the Sell with Soul checklist that I referred to up here in the VIP lounge if you want to use those to get started. They're also in some of my books. I also have the checklist in the back of the books, but the VIP lounge is probably the quickest, most efficient way to get to them. Now, you know, you'll need to go ahead and create or tweak your own checklist, because I can pretty much guarantee you that the checklist that you see here that says the new listing checklist, that was for my business in my Denver market, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. Okay, so you'll need to go through these and create your own checklist, but do feel free to use mine as a guide to get started. Now, if you want to hear something really cool, if you are an Exact Contact user, I guess I should have said this earlier, is what I'm showing you today will work pretty much with any real estate specific contact management system. I prefer Exact, and we'll talk more about that later, but one really cool thing about Exact is that the checklists that these checklists are preloaded into Exact Contact for you. How cool is that? Let's go there. Okay, so anyway, I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so Exact Contact comes with a whole bunch of activity plans. Some of them are marketing plans. We're not going to talk about those today, but down here we have listing plans and closing plans. Listing plans are for active listings before they go under contract, and then closing plans are for when your buyer or your seller is under contract. These are the preloaded templates that then you can go in and tweak. So looky there, okay? The 2-month new listing plan, Jennifer Allen from Sell with Soul. That's mine. That's the thing you just saw on the VIP lounge. So if you said, well, that looks pretty good to me, you can go in here and voila, it's there. It's all done. Now again, you'll have to tweak it. You'll have to go through here and make sure that it makes sense for your market and for your business model, but it's already there, okay? Now there's also a generic one that has nothing to do with me that Exact Contact put out there as a guide for you, and this fellow Mark Smith, I guess he did one too. So I don't know who Mark Smith is, but that's fine. Oh, it says, okay. And then down here on the closing plans, you have your buyer under contract plan and your listing under contract plan. Now let's say, let me show you how easy this is. This is the activity plan for your new listing. Now let's say you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, well that looks good, that looks good, but you see something on here that isn't right for you. Okay. For example, let's just say give showing instructions to the showing service or the front desk. Well, maybe in your market you don't use showing services or the front desk, and so you could just say, well, that doesn't apply to me. Maybe you show all your own listings. Okay. So then you would just either trash that, get rid of it, or if you wanted to make a change to that, you just click on it. And let's say I have you doing that on day 1. But let's say, I don't know, this doesn't make any sense, but let's say that you don't want to do it on day 1, you want to do it on day 7, which isn't right, but let's just say. All you got to do is change that to 7 days after the listing start date and save it. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to change it, but then your activity plan will reflect the difference. Now, let's say in your market that you have, you use attorneys. I don't use attorneys in Colorado, so I didn't put anything in here about attorneys, but let's say that one of your to-dos in the first week of having a new listing, let's say, is to, have the seller contact an attorney or something like that. So you could add that very easily by add a task, just say, contact your attorney, or my attorney, wouldn't it? Contact the attorney. It's a to-do. I want them to do that 7 days after the listing start date, or, looky here, before the listing expiration. Okay, you have other options. If you wanted to send it a task, then you would just save that and it would add it to your task list. Now let's move down. Actually, okay. So that's the new listing activity plan. One thing you'll notice on here, there are things on here, when you get a new listing, one of the things I advise real estate agents to do is to be in contact with their seller every single day for the first week, ideally for the first 2 weeks. Now, I don't mean that you're picking up the phone and having a long conversation with them, but they hear from you every single day in one form or another for that first week, ideally the first 2 weeks. And this, and having a a contact management system, transaction checklist, can help you stay on top of that. And I've included some suggestions in here on topics that you can contact your seller about, on day 1, on day 2, on day 3. So, I'll show you what some of those are here real quick. Send a copy of the MLS listing to the seller for approval. I think that's a really good idea to do, so you can do that on day 1. That's a thing you can talk about on day 1. Let's see, schedule the open house. That's a conversation you're going to have with your seller. Let's see, email links of your internet advertising to your seller. Down here, call your seller and ask if the showing instructions are working for them. So if you set up, this is how showings are going to work, you can check in with the seller and say, okay, we've had 3 or 4 showings now. Is it working for you, or do we need to tweak something? So there's just ideas in here of things that you can contact your seller about. And we're going way down, 17 days after the listing date, 21 days, 25 days, 45 days, 45 days, 60 days, and you can keep going. All right. Now, let's go into one of the under contract plans, and I'll show you a few different things, and then I'll show you how to build one from scratch if that's what you want to do. Okay, this is your buyer under contract plan. Now, the cool thing about this is, think about, there are 2 important dates or 2 guiding dates in an under contract. When you're under contract, you have the contract date and the closing date. The neat thing about building these transaction checklists is that you can create your to-dos either in relation to the offer accepted date, which is, I call it the under contract date, or the closing date. Okay, so for example, here's one of my to-dos: confirm time and place of the closing for all parties. If you've ever shown up at the wrong title company for a closing, yes, I have, or if you've ever realized that you never told your buyer where to go, okay, this is a nice thing to have on your checklist. So confirm closing time and place with all parties 4 days before the closing date. I could have done after the offer accepting date, after the closing date, before the move-in date, blah, 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 but obviously 4 days before the closing date makes the most sense. All right. You can also do then, here we are, fax, send the contract to the lender. You would do that 0 days after the offer accepted date, which is the under contract date. All right. So 1 day before the, 1 day, 5 days, 4 days, 2 weeks. All right. One of the cool things about these checklists, and if you go through these, if you're relatively new in real estate and you haven't had a lot of closings, you might see some things on there that go, huh? Why would I have that? And, And it's one of those, you know, if it's on here, it's probably as a result of something I forgot to do at some point in a closing, and I got burned for it one way or another. So that's another beautiful thing of having these automated checklists, is that you will screw up, you will forget to do things, and if they go on your checklist, you'll never forget to do them again. All right? And that's one of the beautiful things about having these automated checklists is I would bet if you're really on top of it, every single transaction you do, something happens that you need to add to your checklist and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Let's see. Okay. Let me show you real quick how you do one of these checklists from scratch if you'd rather do it that way. It's so easy. So let's say you want to do your own new listing checklist. You don't like mine at all. You want to start from scratch. All right. You just create new plan and start adding tasks. You name your plan, my very own new listing plan, and you just start adding tasks. So description, put up my for sale sign. I'm going to do that 0 days after the listing start date, and save it. Okay. And you can just start building, building your own task list. There it is. Oh, sorry. And just keep going, keep going, keep going. All right. I'm not going to save that, but if you did save it, then you would have your own activity plan building. And again, you would probably tweak it the rest of your life, which is a good thing. Okay. So let's say that you have built your very own custom activity plan and you're happy with it. What do you do then? Okay, how do you actually apply it? All right, well, let's go back into my active business. Okay, remember these 3 transactions? How about we do this? I'll show you. Do I want to do it that way? Yeah. No. Let's see. Yes. No. Yes. Okay, this is my, no, I want to do that a different way. Sorry about that. I'm going to kill a couple birds with one stone. Get me back up there. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go into my active listing. This is my listing that is not under contract yet. I'm going to put it under contract and show you how easy it is to apply the action plans. Okay, so this is my active listing. I'm going to put it under contract. You can fill in all of these things if you want to. I don't for these purposes. What I say, I sold my listing for full price. Oops. Well, that's fine. I sold it for $1,000. No, it's not going to let me do that. Okay. I'm just filling these numbers in. Let's have the offer acceptance date was today. It does make me put in these. These are the only 2 dates that it makes me put in, so we'll go ahead and do that. So I just put my listing under contract. Okay, I'm going to go into activity plans. Now see, I've got my 2-month new listing program in there already. I'm going to assign my listing under contract to it. And then if I were to go back out into my task list, I would now have another, 36 to-dos. Now, here's the slick thing. It's no longer a new listing. It's a listing under contract, right? So I don't need all of those to-dos that I was doing for my active listing. I don't need to do them anymore because we're under contract. Do I have to go through and manually complete all of them? No, I just unassign the plan. And now all of the to-dos that were associated with it being an active listing will now automatically be removed from my task list. So if we were to go back into my task list, it's going to auto-populate with all of the things that I need to do now that my listing is under contract. And all of the things that were here a few minutes ago are gone, okay, because I didn't need to do them. All right. Now another kind of, let me show you something else real quick. And then we can answer questions or show you a few more little bells and whistles. Exact contact will also allow you, let's say that you double end, that you found, it's your listing and you found the buyer. You can also then do that, add the buyer. I'm not going to do that here because it takes a minute, but add the buyer, and then you can apply both of the activity plans to the transaction, both as the buyer representative and the seller representative, all in the same document. So that's actually another cool thing. And then remember, down in here is where you would fill in the transaction-specific dates and deadlines, which will then populate into your task list. So, all right, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're about 45 minutes in, which seems like a good time to pause and see if you have any questions and anything that we need to answer, anything we need to clarify, anything else you'd like to see real quick. Rich, anything out there?
Yeah, a couple things. There have been, most questions I've been kind of answering on the go here, but there have been numerous questions related to customization. And I've just, but you sort of covered it, that yes, you can customize these plans. And that even, if you need to have a task that actually occurs before you get the listing, you can actually even add those tasks too. So
you can, and you can, and I should have just mentioned that you can. There's a plan start date and there's a listing date. And if you, let's say that when you get a listing, let's say, that you take the listing and you're not going to put it on the market for a week, and there are things that you need to do before in that listing start date, then you would create the to-dos based on the plan start date, not the listing start date. Very easy to do. So I didn't show you that, but yeah, very easy to do. The one thing I love about Exact Contact, and I've shown you what it can do today. I kept it very simple, which I like to do, but it's very intuitive. So you're not going to have to sit and take an 8-hour class on how to create transaction checklists. I'm pretty sure if you become a customer of Exact Contact today, or if you are a customer and you've never done this, you can go in there and figure it out pretty quickly and be up and running in an hour. So
absolutely. And if you do need help, we have terrific tutorial videos, or you can just call our support team. They're here, 9 to 8, Monday to Friday Eastern, and their job is to help you be successful with the software. So you can also give them a call. There was also a couple of questions, Jennifer, around mobile. So, can I see my listings? Can I see my tasks, on my phone? And the answer is yes. Exact Contact has a mobile app, and you have access to all this information on the phone.
Excellent. I don't know how y'all work off your phone. I cannot do it. I don't know. My eyes are going bad, but I just cannot work off my phone. But apparently, I'm the only one on the planet that can't. So,
Jennifer, after this webinar, I'll have to show you our mobile app. Even your old tired eyes and my old tired eyes, it works.
Good. All right. Okay. What else? Ask me some more questions.
Let's just see here. A couple came in while we've been talking here. Can you individualize an action plan for a particular transaction? I might want. Yeah.
Okay. I can answer this question a couple ways, and it brings up another topic that I'm glad you asked, because I'll mention it briefly, and that is, if you let's say that you have there's a couple different ways you could do that. Let's say that you have a special transaction, like maybe new construction, let's say, which is a little bit different from resale, and that you don't do a lot of new construction, maybe one a year or something, or you could then take your regular checklist, your regular activity plan, you can make a copy of it, and then go in and change, what you need to change. Then it seems to me, that, hey, maybe you might want to create yet another checklist specifically for new construction. Or if you do foreclosures or short sales or special types of transactions, you can create checklists, activity plans specifically geared to those types of transactions. Another thing you can do is, I kind of skipped through it on here, but let's say that you have a particular transaction that for some reason is special. You can go in and change the specific dates after you've applied the plan. So you apply the plan, it allocates all of the dates, and then you say, well, on this particular one, we're not going to do anything for a month because there are renters in there. We're going to wait for a month. Then you can go in, and if you want to, then manually change each one of the dates to be appropriate. The other thing, of course, would be to go into the profile, into the active business profile, and add additional dates that are custom. So yeah, I mean, you can customize the heck out of these things. So absolutely.
Just one other comment on that, Jennifer. Even if you've got a standard plan, and at the point where you're applying it to the transaction, you still have the opportunity to tweak dates. So
that's true.
yeah, you can move a date, or you can say skip this task, skip this task. So it's not full editing the plan like Jennifer was showing you, but at the point of assignment, you still do have a bit of flexibility of skipping steps or moving them around a bit.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Not really. There's a couple of things. There are more point questions I'll answer. But where are we at? 11:19. Should probably keep going and stop once more before the end, and I'm sure we'll have some more.
Okay. All right. Well, a couple things I just want to add here before we close out, and that is one of the beautiful things about using a transaction manager. I call it a transaction manager instead of contact manager, but a transaction manager is that it can, what I want you to do is commit to it and use it for everything in your life, not just your new listings, your buyers under contract and your listings under contract. Use it for everything. Get dependent on it. Make this your drug of choice, is your task list on your contact management system, to where your day is not complete until you've gotten up, logged on to your exact contact or your contact management system and gone through your checklist. Get a real thrill out of marking things off. So the more things that are on here, the more addicted you're going to be to it. So, for example, if you do, if you have things you do in your personal life, not related to real estate at all, but they are things that you need to remember to do, put those in, add them as tasks. Some of the examples I give are, if you change your furnace filters every 3 months, put that in your contact manager. If I put in there to give my dogs their heartworm pills every month, to do their flea prevention every month. I do, my teleseminars that I do for y'all. I mean, I have created an activity plan for these teleseminars that I do, so that every time I do one, I apply the action plan. So my day literally, I start out my day with my cup of coffee and I get on my exact contact and I look at my task list. That's what you want to do. You want to get yourself to that point. Not just that, well, whenever I get a listing, I'll do it. No, I want this thing to run your life in a good way, to where it's very rewarding. I get a kick out of, getting up, looking at my task list, getting rid of all those reds. Okay? Now, when I first discovered the beauty of contact management, transaction management, it was at a point in my life where I was actually working for someone else, and he made me learn Top Producer, because that was what he used, and he was a high producer. And so I would go on there, and I would have literally 3 hours worth of stuff to do sitting there on my Top Producer task list. Now, I don't mean that I sat there on Top Producer for 3 hours, but I would look at it and go, oh, I've got to do that, 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 I've got to do that. So it's not that the transaction management system is taking all your time, but all of the things that you have to do. And it is just the most wonderful feeling then to go in, mark them all off, see all those reds gone and everything in blue, and you're caught up. So just get yourself addicted to it. It's the coolest thing. I also want to return, sort of in closing, I guess, and when you're on top of your transactions, and I hope that you've seen today that by having good transaction management, good transaction checklists. Ooh, I just thought of something else I want to say. But it really is life-changing. It's going to boost your own confidence in yourself. It's going to boost your trust in yourself. And so when you go out and you're meeting with a seller, you're working with a buyer, you know that nothing is going to slip through the cracks. You know that you're in control, and that's going to show. Now, do I think that you should take these checklists out and show them to people and say, here's the checklists I use? No, I don't recommend you do that, because you want your client to think you are just the coolest thing ever and you remember everything, and you don't want to say, well, here's the checklist I go off of, you know? Just be on top of things. Make the phone calls the day that you need to make them. Do the reminders. Make sure that your sellers, your buyers, your prospects never have to call you for information because you've already done it. You've already contacted them. You've already taken care of it. And that's one of the many beautiful things about having good transaction management. Now, something I want to mention here is one thing I've wanted to do for years, and I want you guys to tell me if this is something you would be interested in doing, but I am so passionate about transaction checklists that I would love to do a workshop, maybe a 2-week, 3-week workshop where I'll lead y'all and we'll build our checklist. So we'll just do it together. We can, I call them live workshops. They're typically 4 to 8 weeks long. This one I think would be about 3 weeks. So if that's something you would participate in, just shoot a note on there and just tell me. I'd love to do it, but I want to see if there would be enough interest in doing that. I think that would be fun, kind of fun. I mean, transaction checklists, okay, not the most exciting thing, but I think it'd be kind of fun. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in doing. I guess finally, I just want to, again, sing the praises of Exact Contact. I've been using them since 2011, and almost everybody that has tried Exact with my recommendation has come back with rave reviews. So it's intuitive, it's easy to learn. To me, I am not going to take 8 hours to learn how to use any system. I'm not going to do it, and Exact Contact is not like that. If you are an Exact Contact user and there are things that you haven't quite tried yet, I would encourage you to explore some of the bells and whistles, especially this transaction management if you're not doing it. If you're not, go ahead and give it a try. There's a 60-day free trial, but I can tell you what, if you sign up for the 60-day free trial and you get on there for an hour or two, then you're basically just going to get 60 days free because you will want to use it. And you're not going to take 60 days to try it out. You're not going to take 60 days to learn it. You're going to figure it out in a couple hours and say, okay, this is cool, sign me up. So it's Exact Contact is $35 a month. There's no contract. I know some of the other ones have contracts, and there is no setup fee. Did I get that right, Rich?
You did, Jennifer.
Okay, and it is Mac compatible. I know that. I don't have a Mac, but I know that it's Mac compatible. So, and that's all I have to say that's all I have to say about that today. And so, any other questions, or should we?
There were some other questions, so
okay.
Those who have some more time. There's some good ones too. Let's see where we go. Can you sort your list by transaction, by due date, etc., or does it always appear in one long list? And the answer to that one is it is definitely sortable. You can sort by transaction, by date range, or even by keyword. I'm going to go through some of these quickly, Jennifer, just because actually the list is long and there's only a few minutes left. Okay. Can my broker have an account that I can access as an assistant to him so both of us have access to? So this is a question about teams. And the answer is yes in 2 ways. If it's a small team, like a team of 2, you can share one account. You don't have to get a separate account at a separate cost. 2 of you can be in the in different computers and accessing the database and the task list at the same time. For bigger teams beyond 2, we do have a team version where there's a team leader, multiple team members, and they can all access these plans, and it's shared. So you can, the task that as an individual, every task is yours, but in a team environment, you can assign different tasks to different people depending on their specialization in the team. But there's a shared task list and a shared calendar, as well as the individual task lists and calendars. If we use the trial, can we customize our list? Yeah, so let's say you take the trial, you've got 60 days for free, you customize the list. Should you decide to continue and become, a paying subscriber, you keep all that. It's not like you have to, start again and rebuild. All that really happens, when you create an account, you've created an account in Exact Contact. At the end of 60 days, what changes is we start billing you $35 a month. It's not like you have to, re-register or anything like that. No, you said you can use the task list for everything you you can use appointment calendar for appointments within the task list. Oh, there's a question regarding calendar versus task list.
Mm-hmm.
And the general guidance we give our client, but this is a guideline, it's not a rule. Tasks are to-dos. At some point today, I need to do the following, and a calendar has a time element to it. At 2 p.m., I'm meeting the Joneses for a listing presentation. At 10:30 in the morning, I have to call the mortgage broker about blah blah blah. So we recommend put things that have a time element in your calendar, or birthdays, things like that. Tasks are just more things that you should get done today. The problem with putting all your tasks in a calendar is it becomes a very messy calendar, and then the risk is you miss the 2:30 appointment with John because your calendar, instead of having the 3 key appointments that you had today, had those 3 appointments and 23 tasks, and you just kind of miss it.
Yeah, they're 2 separate functions. So yeah, I still carry a paper calendar, and what I do with my exact contact though is if there's something in my to-do list that needs to get done that day, I just need to do it that day, and I don't want to sit and look at my computer all day to remind me to do it, then I write it down on my, my paper to-do list. But yeah, any appointments that I have, they go in my paper calendar, and they don't really have anything to do with my task list.
Which is cool. The system does come with a fully functional calendar, and again, with the mobile app, you've got access in real time to the same task list, same calendar, same contact database as if you were on your desktop. It's not a sync, it's a mobile application. So it's the software in a mobile version. Was there anything else here? Question about getting started. So if I do want to take advantage of this, although it looks simple, there's always a learning curve, and that's true. Will anyone help me? And the answer is yes. So I might have mentioned it before, but if you decide to give Exact Contact a try, we have something we call concierge setup service, and basically it means our team will do anything and everything to help you get up and running and kind of seeing business value from the system. So that's everything from uploading your contact data for you, setting up the sync to Gmail if you want, and it means getting you started. So helping you understand how to use these activity plans, and that's important for a lot of people to know that human help will be there if they need it.
Okay.
And I think that's it for questions, Jennifer, unless if you want to wrap up.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. And all of you who showed up a little bit early and got in, good job. I'm expecting to go down to my email and have a lot of people saying, hey, what happened? So, but this is recorded. So hopefully, if the river don't rise and whatever, I will have it posted on my website in the next day or two. If you would like to watch it over and over again, it will be available there. So any questions, feel free to give me a call, or send me an email or a text or a Facebook, or however you usually contact me. I'm happy to answer questions. And have a wonderful weekend. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. Bye.